This podcast is brought to you by the Startup Core Podcast and by the Spur of the Moment Podcast.
The Final Frontier Podcast. These are the voyages of Jake Boger and Justin Spur. Our weekly mission, to explore memories of Star Trek's strange new worlds, to recall the search for new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has had the spare time to go before. Welcome, everyone, to the Final Frontier Podcast. As always, we are your crew, Jake and Justin. How we doing, Justin? You feel like you need you've been working really hard, so hard, and you feel like you
Yeah.
need a vacation.
Yeah, I've had that thought.
Well, that's exactly what the Enterprise crew feels like in this episode. That's right, we are talking about Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 14, Shore Leave. But a little birdie told me, which isn't supposed to be on the planet, you'll get that joke here in a moment, that the planet is not quite as tranquil as it may seem.
Or it is as tranquil as it may seem.
We'll get there. Anyway,
We'll get there.
this episode takes place between star dates 3025.3 and 3025.8. The in-universe date is the year 2267, and the original air date for this episode, right after Christmas, December 29th, 1966.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it aired so close to Christmas. And that it is, if in fact did air so close to Christmas, it's not a Christmas episode.
Well, I don't know how. Well, it's funny.
I guess
you
it
mentioned that.
technically is because it's a vacation episode, I suppose.
To me, Dagger of the Mind would be more of a Christmas episode because of the Hell and Noel of it all.
Okay, good point. Solid
And
point.
we now know that Star Trek at least in this time of the original series, they still celebrate Christmas because Kirk met her at a Christmas party
That he did. Yes.
and then banged her in
Exactly.
the
So they could have had
bottom
a.
lab.
I banged in the botany lab. Ooh,
Yes.
I like a little bit of alliteration.
And Sulu saw the whole thing.
Sulu saw the whole. Oh my!
I was just taking care of my plants, and all of a
Why
sudden,
he has a body lab?
I just feel like that's something where like once Sulu like made a noise and they both turned, and Sulu would just be like, I was just in here taking care of my plants, and Kirk just locks eyes with him and goes, "Nerd, get out."
Even though this show goes out of its way to try to play Kirk as a massive nerd. I know he doesn't look it, but he got beat up in high school.
He did get beat up in the academy. Yes, he did.
I mean, this show this episode is a very. We have differing ideas on what a prank is. We'll get there.
1960s pranks hit different and harder, apparently.
I see what you.
So this episode was written by Theodore Sturgeon and is directed by Robert Spar, not to be confused with Robert Spur.
You said Sturgeon, and my brain went, I mean, this episode is a bit fishy.
So apparently this is the same Sturgeon who was responsible for Sturgeon's Law. I don't know if you're familiar with that because I wasn't.
No.
Sturgeon's Law is a basic law of like storytelling and writing that 90% of everything is crap.
Explain.
That's what it is. That's what it is. 90% of everything ever written is crap.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And apparently people thought that this episode was the inspiration for that, but no, he had come up with it in 1951, long before this episode.
In that this episode is crap.
See, I don't. Okay, the
I
episode
don't
is
think it
not.
is though.
The episode is not, but there are many elements that are crap. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, okay, a little. I
So
mean,
90
I will say
percent,
it's
90
really like
yeah.
I was gonna say felt safe. I will say that at the end.
Yeah. I I do believe this to be true. 90% of this episode is crap, but the 10% that isn't crap is enough to elevate the
Interesting.
crap.
I I I still really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, it's fun. There's no denying
Yeah,
that it's fun. It's a very fun episode, but it's not sort of stereotypically. I mean, it is stereotypically Star Trek though. That's the thing.
it
But there is
really
this
is.
weird upon my rewatch, this current rewatch of the series, it has become very clear to me that there is this sort of cultural idea of what Star Trek is, and then there is what Star Trek actually is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Star Trek, in actuality, is much sillier than people tend to or like to think.
It's funny because we had this conversation on another podcast. I can't remember which one, but there's a similar idea for me about Power Rangers, which
Hmm.
the cultural idea of Power Rangers is drastically different than what Power Rangers actually was. And I think the cultural idea of Power Rangers is represented in that new Power Ranger special, where it remembers it much sillier than it is, whereas the original Power Rangers was quite a bit darker than people remember. And so I think it's interesting that like with Star Trek, it's kind of like the opposite. It's far sillier than people maybe remember, which that's why I like it. Like this episode is 90% fight sequence, and that's amazing.
90% too long fight sequence, but we will get there. So another fun fact about this episode specifically is by the time this episode was approved for pre-production, Gene Roddenberry had been basically working nonstop for 2 straight years with no breaks. First producing The Lieutenant, which was a series that he had produced before Star Trek, and then selling Star Trek to NBC, and finally getting the series into production. Just after this episode was approved, his wife and doctor insisted that he finally take a vacation. And the
Yeah,
irony is that there were some butting of heads in the writing of this script. And so
really.
in the midst of production, Gene Roddenberry was rewriting a tremendous amount of this script. Apparently, he
That
set up shop under a tree on set.
Interesting, because that makes sense because this episode feels like there's more to it that never gets explained. Like it really feels like I look, I may have now seen this episode twice for reasons, but I realize this time that there's a real hand waving away of the drama, and we'll get there. I have an alternative joke for the ending of this episode that I'm
There,
going to pitch.
there are a lot of moments in this episode where things come out of nowhere, but the interesting thing about this episode is that's sort of the theme is things come out of nowhere, but some seem to really come out of nowhere.
I really do. And I mean the Gene Roddenberry, yeah, I could see why he wrote this at the end of an exhaustive fest because man, this episode's a fever dream. Real fever
Yeah,
dream.
it is hardcore. But our adventure begins with the USS Enterprise arriving at a planet in the Omicron Delta system. Scans reveal the planet is a lush and green paradise, but that there is no animal or insect life of any kind. The crew is exhausted after 3 months of operations, so Captain Kirk announces shore leave for off-duty personnel. But first, he orders survey parties down to scout the planet, because new planet. You don't want to just send people down there willy nilly. I mean, they might be accosted by a white rabbit and a young girl.
So I have to do my notes on the Paramount Plus description, which is referencing the fact that they're on shore leave and their thoughts come to life. Which my first note is shore leave. Nothing bad ever happens on shore leave. We all know. We've all watched SVU. Um, and I feel like Kirk's mind is probably going to be filthy. Spoiler alert, it is. And the crew's thoughts come to life. Do they mean this literally? Are they, or is it like a metaphorical, like it's all in their head kind of episode? Those were my questions.
Yes. And I would like to point out, for those of you that have watched the episode along with us, you know what I'm talking about. Kirk spends quite a bit more time thinking about a man than a woman in
he
this
he
episode.
wants to tussle with a man more than he wants to tussle
I
with a
mean,
woman. That's all I'm saying.
he does seem to be oddly preoccupied with this. But you also might notice that Kirk has a new yeoman.
Yes, I did. I noticed it. I'm oh, yo, he's got a new yeoman. Well, at first I noticed it as the woman who was giving him a massage. And I'm like, this feels very Me Too.
Okay, to be fair though, he did think it was Spock.
He did, yeah, to be fair, he did think it was Spock. He seemed really disappointed that it wasn't Spock.
Disappointed and kind of like it's weird because you would okay, like in a sort of which I mean the 23rd century we've already seen is quite a bit more liberal.
True.
But you would think by 1960 sensibilities he would look back to see a woman rubbing his back and be relieved. But he has very much the opposite reaction.
He wanted a strong Vulcan
He wanted a
grip.
strong Vulcan grip. Yeah.
I just said,
Ah,
so I got a note here that I can't remember the context for that just says Kirk's trying to play it cool. And I'm not sure what he was trying to play it cool about, whether or not it was that he was disappointed that Spock wasn't massaging him or that the new Yowman was now massaging him. I can't remember which.
well, this implies that Spock has rubbed his back before, and I want to see, I want to know what that first conversation was like.
Occasionally, Spock, I'm going to need you to go to town on my lower back.
Is that an order, Captain?
Yes.
Yes.
Feel like that's a line in someone's fan, like there's a fan
That's a
fiction which
fanfic in there.
there's a fan fiction where Spock is absolutely massaging Kirk. There's no way it doesn't exist.
Okay, so hang on. The name of this fan fiction, Tension Between Men,
All right. Right. Good.
or
No notes.
Tension Orbiting Rigel 7.
Mention orbiting Rigel 7. Yeah, I like that. That's better.
Internet, get to work on it. Write
Make it
it,
happen,
we'll read
Internet.
it. We'll read it.
Um,
We will. We will read it on air.
and then
Yeah.
in terms of the landing parties, I have a note about Sulu and McCoy are on a little date. And upon the second viewing, I noticed, man, yeah, there's some sexual tension there.
See, I didn't get it.
Sulu's been doing some flirting. He's doing some flirting. At least he felt like he would be doing some flirting.
Well, I just think he was happy to be around all the plants.
There, that's a fair point.
That's fair. That's
He's
fair.
he's a botany boy,
He's a botany plant. It's kind of like a brony, but with plants.
but with plants. Yeah, and it's not sexual. It's not sexual. He just likes plants.
I just like the smell of them to feel them against my
He
skin.
likes them a normal amount. He likes plants a normal amount.
I don't know about a normal amount. He is a tad excessive.
No, he
I mean,
likes it
he
as
does
much
have
as
he has his own botany lab.
he likes it as much as a brony does, which is a normal amount.
I don't want to insult the brony community, so I'm gonna leave that lay. I'm gonna leave that out in the pasture, so to speak. But fun fact, this is the only episode in which the USS Enterprise is seen orbiting a planet from right to left. The shot was deliberately reversed in post-production because the shape of the eastern United States and the Caribbean Sea can clearly be seen on the globe used for a model of the planet. However, I do believe that if you are watching the Paramount Plus version, it may be an updated graphic as well.
Oh, interesting.
So it depends on what version you're watching, I'm sure. But yes, as you said, Dr. McCoy and Lieutenant Sulu find themselves on a truly beautiful and peaceful planet, and it is also the first time we see a pretty planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Very pretty plant. Also, I know I don't know if I mentioned it last time. Everyone seems to be wearing boots. And I don't know if I'm dumb. Have they always been wearing really like thick combat boots and I just never noticed it?
They have, yeah. They've
Oh,
always
okay,
been wearing.
okay.
Even the women
It's
are
like,
wearing the boots.
oh, okay. Because for some reason I remember Yeoman Rand having like more high heels, but she seemed to be straight
They
up wearing boots.
now I'd have to go back and look, but I mean, the women
Because I
might
remember
have
that
a higher heel. I can't remember
because
that now.
I remember the bit where in the previous episode where they're running to the building, Yeoman Rand is. I remember her being in high heels, and I don't think she is. I think she's in a more of a good walking boot. But who knows? I
Probably.
could be wrong.
You're going on shore leave to a planet with a hiking planet, as it
You're
were.
gonna be doing a lot of running in this episode.
And this is true. This is true. I just had notes that Sulu loves this place more botany. We've already covered that. But
Yeah.
yeah, Sulu. At one point, he even says, "McCoy's like, where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going to get some more samples." You know, it's like,
I
of
do think it's
course,
funny that the botany bit just keeps coming back. Like
it
I keep
does.
it's the bit that keeps paying for itself because it just keeps coming back. It's amazing.
And I never noticed it before. I never
It's so
noticed Sulu's
funny.
botany obsession and his just general obsession with hobbies, because believe you me, that comes roaring back later.
Absolutely.
McCoy suddenly sees an anthropomorphic white rabbit, and a moment later, Alice from Alice in Wonderland. Bones took that good.
Yeah, yeah. I just love that. I love his look of like, huh, well, that just happened. And my favorite, the whole scene, Forrest Kelly, it's just such a good scene comedically. Like his comedic timing is so good when Alice enters the scene and she's like, "Where'd the rabbit go?" And he went that way, and he doesn't overreact. He just goes with it. And then finally, when he does react, he's like, Sulu, like it's just that his entire like him processing it moment to moment is just so funny. And it's like to him that is a real rabbit, even though it's just a guy in a suit. Like he's not like a guy in a rabbit suit. To him, it's a rabbit. Like I thought that was funny.
Well, I do appreciate the performance for many reasons, not least of which being the fact that the way he plays it off with his facial expressions is he simultaneously knows that he is seeing this, but he also, in his own mind, at least the way I read it, is he knows that he is hallucinating, or at least he thinks he's hallucinating. So
Yeah.
he is literally actively like, I'm going crazy. Something is happening
Right.
to me. I need to report this.
Right. And then that's that age old like, is the man who knows he's insane? Is he insane? Like,
No.
so therefore
See,
he's not insane.
yeah, so this is a fun little tidbit for you. If you have ever asked yourself, legitimately, am I crazy? Am I a narcissist? Am I this, that? Which, by the way, I hate that word so much. It's become vastly
Uh,
overused. But
I mean, yes.
basically, if you've ever asked yourself that question, now you may have participated in behavior, narcissistic behavior, but if you're asking yourself legitimately, am I a narcissist? You're not. You already passed the test.
Yeah, because a narcissist would never admit that they were a narcissist.
Exactly. And a crazy person would never admit they were crazy.
No. Yeah, same old like, am I a psychopath? No, because a psychopath would never. Yeah. So like, he's not crazy, but like, he has no rational explanation for it. And I love this episode is the search for the rational. I enjoyed that.
And that's Star Trek, honestly, which
Yeah,
I love. I
the searching
appreciate
for
that.
the irrational and the rational. It kind of reminds me of in a way, it's sort of my favorite or my example of the like the skeptic within the show that's about the thing like the unskeptical is Supernatural, where it's like, yeah, every time one of these shows like, oh, there's something fantastical, there's a logical explanation for this. And it's all about like sleuthing out what the logical explanation is.
In a hilarious, just a hilarious bit of, I guess it would be art imitating art, but I don't know. Correct me after I'm done. The first hallucination Dr. McCoy sees in this episode is the vision of a giant white rabbit. 6 years later, DeForest Kelly would make his final non-Star Trek film called Night of the Lepus or Lepus, a movie about giant killer rabbits. I gotta say, do yourself a favor and look up the trailer. It is delightful.
I mean, I'm
They,
sure it is.
I mean, it was made in 1972, and in true 1972 horror fashion, they do those like really quick zoom ins on the killer rabbit, but it's a rabbit, so it's hilarious.
So is it like giant rabbits attack? Is that the idea?
I haven't watched the movie yet, but I want to.
That's amazing because like I'm just picturing like giant rabbits, but it's like actual rabbits made to look like they're gigantic and they're just doing harmless things. Those always make me laugh.
The shots in the trailer are essentially just real rabbits doing harmless things.
That's so funny.
I know
That's
it's
awesome.
it's delightful.
Also, in the other timeline, I recall saying I couldn't figure out why Alice in Wonderland appeared. I got it this time. It was he says it when they're walking around the forest. McCoy's like, "Oh, it's just like Wonderland and Alice in Wonderland," so that's why the
Oh,
rabbit
okay.
and
That's really interesting that I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I didn't
I
pick
know,
up
I
on
know,
that.
I completely missed it.
It's like something out of Alice in Wonderland.
Even though
That's funny.
I don't know necessarily that I would think that that looks like Alice in Wonderland. I mean, to be fair, my only real like interpretation of it visually might be the Disney movie, which by the way, her dress is definitely based on the Disney version. There's no way it's not.
Yeah, because this was in 1966. That movie came out in I think 1954, 1950. It came out in the 50s, so it's
Yeah.
reasonably, it's about as fresh as, say, Frozen would be for us.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah,
culturally,
so
and that was a big. I'm pretty sure that was a big movie because I think by
I
that
think
point
so.
Disney was a household name. I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Disney was a
I
big studio for sure.
I feel like it went Dumbo, Alice in Wonderland because I feel like Dumbo came
I think
before
so. I
Alice.
think they were being produced at the same time. That would be a Haley question.
Yeah, it absolutely would be a Haley question. She would know.
She would know.
I don't. I'm so bad with dates. Like I know eras. I'm bad with
Yeah,
dates. And with Disney,
I can generally pin the decade, but the actual like there's a handful. Like I know that the original Godzilla movie came out in 1954. Like I know
I
that
don't know.
much.
Yeah.
But
But like with
which
Disney in particular, it's tough because their stuff doesn't it take I in my opinion, Disney ages 10 years, especially good Disney, with the exception of maybe the 3D stuff, ages 10 years later than it is. So like I think most of the stuff from the 50s looks like it's from the 60s and so on and so
yeah,
forth.
because they generally well the reason for that being is that they usually invent the techniques and technology that
Yeah.
other studios go on to use. So like yes, a Disney film that was made in the 50s would look like general animation, high quality animation in the 1960s. That
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
And like I mean, it's just like you can check a cheap DreamWorks knockoff
Yeah, but
of like
DreamWorks
where it's
has done
like
some DreamWorks has done some good work. But you're right. I mean, especially some of the later films after the studio after
yeah,
DreamWorks Animation was sold off.
like a
Um,
Balto. I love Balto, but man, that's a cheap looking movie.
oh, see, I disagree. I thought Balto was quite nice.
I like Balto, but it's not nothing compared to like an Anastasia, like a big budget. That was low
Oh, but
budget.
Anastasia wasn't Disney though. Anastasia was Fox and
No, no,
Don
no, that
Bluth.
was Don Bluth. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
but
Balto was a Don Bluth, wasn't it? Wasn't that a cheaper Don Bluth?
no, I think that was just DreamWorks. Hang
Oh, was
on.
that just Dreamer? So
Now we're going to. Oh no, Don Bluth would not have done. Because I'll give you this. The animation does feel a little bit stiffer compared to.
yeah, it's from
But
that like
I like Balto.
that genre of like cheap looking animated early or mid to early late or 90s 2000s cheap looking animates. Like it's not Disney.
I mean, it was
We did an episode of
1990.
that.
It was 1995.
Oh, I say that from a place of love. So
Yeah,
I'm
let's
like,
see
it's
here.
not. I think that
Oh,
like that's like peak Disney Renaissance.
oh
Like
wow.
even
So
Disney Renaissance said it's not.
this was Amblin Entertainment.
Oh, it was Amblin. You're right. It was Amblin.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now
Let's
that you say
see.
that,
Amblimation Animation Studio.
right? They're the ones who did that run of cheap theatrical
Yeah,
movies like
they also
Fievel.
did We're Back.
Yeah, oh, I do love that movie though.
Hey man, An American Tail is not cheap animation. Five Goes West is,
Yeah,
but
Fievel Goes West is very cheap.
yeah, but that was Don Bluth. An American Tail was Don Bluth.
American Hotel was. I don't think he did the sequel, but the sequel went
I
to
don't
theaters.
think he did. No, I think that was Amblimation.
I actually watched the sequel first, so my love is for the sequel, not the first
Oh
one. But I
man,
love the
you
first
know
one.
what's funny? When I was a kid, I much preferred the sequel, but as an adult, oh my God, the first one is a masterpiece.
It's real. I mean, all of his
It's
stuff is
really
well.
good.
It's mostly good. It's at least it's at least entertaining. I mean, some of the later stuff maybe gets a bit lazy, but
I
like
mean,
it's
I'm an unabashed lover of the Pebble and the Penguin, and I know people hate that. But now I will say it does not hold up as well as it did when I was younger. But it's not a god awful movie.
I
It's
mean,
cute.
I like the one with Chicken Elvis. So
Oh, Rockadoodle.
I love Rockadoodle. I grew up with that movie.
I really like the animation in Rockadoodle. The story is incredibly
It's
nonsensical if you're watching it as an adult, but
oh yeah, yeah. No,
there
we did it for the show, and it was just a riddle with plot hole kind of movie. Like,
oh
don't
yeah,
think about it.
hardcore, hardcore. There is a moment though that this is gonna make some people laugh. There's the moment at the end when Chanticleer finally crows again.
Yes.
That always reminds me of Super Saiyan Goku.
You know what? I can see why you would say that.
Hey
Because of
man,
that movie, I constantly refer to adequate pipes all the time. It's a running joke between. It's been a running joke between me and Jordan for like
I
years.
for every once in a while I'll come back up because you're talking about the nephew. Wow, this is a we're diverging, but I have to say this. There was like I go through these periods where because I find the line hilarious when he's just like Uncle Dookie.
Uncle Dookie, Uncle Dookie. Yeah, that's who is that? Oh, I always forget his name. But he
I
was a
always
really he
forget
did
his
a lot of
name.
he was oh he's the sidekick in All Dogs Go to Heaven as well. Like Scarface's
Yes, he
sidekick.
is. He is. I can't remember his name, but
But he's really funny.
really
He's really
funny,
good.
really funny. But yeah, also before we, we'll get back to Star Trek in a moment, but I have to say, could you imagine the Duke being voiced by Linda Young?
that
Holy crap.
would be very
They're
funny.
running out of. I can't do Linda Young. I
I
can't do
can't.
it.
I can't do
It's
Linda.
not going to happen.
To be fair, Linda Young can kind of barely do Linda Young.
So anyway, back to Star Trek. McCoy reports this, but Kirk disbelieves it, thinking McCoy is just trying to get him to also take shore leave. which Kirk had previously said he did not need. Meanwhile, Spock enters the room and tells Kirk about a crew member whose performance has deteriorated substantially. Kirk immediately, regardless of a crew member's right to refuse shore leave, demands that this person be sent down below and asks for the identity of this crew member, to which Spock replies, James Kirk.
This moment was awesome. I just love Spock. Got him. Friggin' got him, man.
He got him.
Got him.
There
Just
was
the look.
one, yeah.
I was just gonna say the look on Kirk's face, priceless. Of being like, oh, bitch, like
But
he bamboozled me.
you can't argue with it.
Nope. Dang,
One,
it's so logical.
yeah, one touch that it's a little thing, but I really liked it. Right before the scene starts, it comes back from commercial, and Kirk is doing the captain's log, and when he's reporting the star date, he has this brief moment where he's like, star date,
Captain's log, stardate 3025.3.
just to show he's tired. Love it.
Do you think it's
such
like?
a
Do you
nice
think
little
though?
touch.
Do you think it's intentional, or do you think that maybe that was maybe a line flub that they left in from Shatner and it just worked?
Either or, but in the inclusion was deliberate.
Oh, for sure. But
I think it was intentional, but that's just me.
interesting. Also, I forgot to mention when it went before it went to the theme song. Yeah, I had the question of when did were the Looney Tunes around in the 1960s? Were they like really famous? Because I just thought it was a real missed opportunity because he saw a rabbit to have Sulu go, "What's up, Doc?" Like I still think that would have been funny. I think it's a loose enough reference. They could have got away with it. What's copyright in the 1960s? Real, I
Maybe.
stand by it.
Well,
Missed opportunity.
all the studios like made backroom deals anyway, except for
Exactly.
Disney.
Like,
Disney refused because of his losing of Mortimer Mouse. Really, that was
and
the start of
Oswald, right?
Disney. Yeah, I'm sorry, not Mortimer. Mortimer. I'm sorry. Wow, I'm sorry, Haley. Mortimer was Mickey's original name, but it was changed. So yeah, you're talking
Yeah,
about Oswald the Rabbit. My bad.
yeah.
Um,
Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
yeah, so after Disney lost that, that was the beginning of the Disney company's just penchant for like, we are never ever playing fast and loose with copyright ever again. If you so much as put a picture of Mickey on your backpack, we are going to sue the shit out of you.
I know, we're gonna absolutely change copyright laws and ruin fun for everyone. The Disney Corporation, when you wish.
Oh, there's a lawyer joke in there somewhere.
Sponsor us.
So apparently, this is the first time in broadcast order, at least, that we hear Captain Kirk call Dr. McCoy Bones. I'm not sure if that's accurate.
I
But I
feel like
think
he has at one point
I
on
thought he
this
did in
show.
the
We've
Man Trap.
referenced.
I thought
I'm
he did in the
almost
very
entirely
first
positive he
episode.
did. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
maybe
almost
not.
entirely
Well,
positive he did.
maybe he just calls him Plum and we didn't notice.
Maybe. You know what? Yeah, somebody in the comments tell us because I just have an intuition. I feel like he did. Fortunately, consequence of podcasting, some of the stuff kind of turns into a soup in your mind, so you're not 100% sure of the stuff you watched at any one time.
Yeah, it's odd how that happens. Because
It's
it's like
just a consequence.
I didn't notice McCoy, or I didn't remember, or I didn't register McCoy saying Wonderland. So, but it's
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It just happens sometimes. My brain is a wash of Jojo Rabbit and Star Trek right now. Two very conflicting
Oh my
things.
God. Yeah. Oh God.
I enjoyed
Well,
that movie, by the way. That's what I dig at that movie. I just watched it
well,
this morning.
after Kirk and his yeoman, Tanya was it Barrows or Barrows? I think it was Barrows, wasn't it?
I think it was Barrows, yeah.
That's easier
No,
to
no,
say.
now I'm
So,
doubting myself. Barrows. I'm thinking Barrows, yeah.
yeah. Tanya Barrows beamed down. McCoy shows Kirk the tracks of a large rabbit. Elsewhere, Sulu finds and fires, for fun, a cult police positive revolver. Of course, Sulu has another hobby.
I mean, I was just like, Sulu. Sulu, absolutely no gun safety. Just like bang, bang, bang,
None.
bang.
None
No regard for
whatsoever.
gun safety.
I just love it. He's like so casual. He's like, target shooting, Captain. And it's like, you are firing into an open area where you know other search parties are. Shame,
Right?
Sulu. Shame.
Right? I think you mentioned how there's never seems to be a no one can see red flags on this show of like, hey, I just happened to find this gun on the ground. Neat, bang, 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 bang. Like, Sulu, where's your sense of investigation, man? Like, Aren't
Well,
you
I
a little
really,
suspicious at all?
yeah, I really love this, the sideline that he does. He's like, I don't have anything like this in my collection, which we now know. Sulu apparently has a collection of firearms in
I
addition
mean,
to all
well, I
of
was
his
gonna say
other.
I would have said a collection of weapons.
Yeah, but he seems to have. I mean, yes, it's implied that he has both firearms and edged weapons,
Yeah.
which actually, I I think we need to bring another counter out to keep track of this. I think we need a Sulu hobby counter because our departed red shirts counter has been not used very much. So I think so. Let's think about this. So Sulu's hobbies. We know he's into botany.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know he's into fencing.
Oh my.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I believe at one point it was alluded to that he was in
Shirtless fencing.
shirtless fencing. Well, presumably he's into shirtless stick fighting then, but we've never seen, so we can't confirm that.
They're not confirmed.
He's alluded to, if I'm not mistaken, he's alluded to being into boxing.
Oh my.
He absolutely has. Yes.
As a hobby. We find out it's confirmed later that Sulu, because Sulu's a helmsman, but he's a pilot.
Oh my.
Because it's confirmed later that he flew helicopters in his academy days in Star Trek for The Voyage Home. So what is that for? And now guns, shooting.
Oh my.
So that's 5 solid hobbies.
That's true. A gun hobbyist and a sword hobbyist would be offended that we crossed, that we were like, it's the same thing. That's true. They are not.
Oh, they're
They're not the
absolutely
same
not.
thing.
You see,
No,
one
no, that's
is
true. That's fair.
one is honorable, and I'm not going
One
to go down
solves a
that road.
problem. That's all I'm saying.
One is honorable, and one works.
Right, yeah, exactly. One is effective. One is super effective, to use Pokemon terminology.
Just there was zero gun safety in this crew because as if Sulu's just open shooting of a revolver was bad enough, Kirk takes said revolver and then puts it into his waistband.
Yeah, I mean, without emptying the bullets or presumably putting on the I assume he doesn't know how to put on the safety.
Well, and where's Sulu? Because he's the hobbyist here. He should be like,
Right?
Captain, you really should unload that and make sure the safety is.
You know what? I know I was just playing with this irresponsibly, but you're probably more the wrong person to have this. I'm gonna
Oh
take this
wow.
off you.
You know what I realized? This is a literal Chekhov's gun, and Chekhov is not in the series yet.
Kinda.
That is funny.
Wait, is that where that term comes from? This show?
No, Chekhov
Oh,
in this case comes from a playwright, but
okay. Because the idea of the Chekhov's gun is the idea that, in this case, literally, if there's a gun in the scene, it will go off. So this is literally a Chekhov's gun.
yeah, it's
It
literally
does eventually go off.
Chekhov's gun is I don't remember the exact acts. I think it's if there's a gun on the mantle in a scene in the first act, it has to be used by the third act.
Yeah. Or
I
is it
believe
like it
that's
will
what it is.
inevitably will be used in the third act? Or is
It
it that it
should
has to be
it
used?
should be, yeah.
It should be used.
I
That
do
makes it a
believe.
Chekhov's gun. So in
Yeah,
this
so
case, it literally is a Chekhov's
it's
gun.
literally a Chekhov's gun, but Chekhov is nowhere around, Captain.
That's funny. I didn't even put that together. That's actually very funny.
I just thought of that. I'm like, that's really funny.
I was like,
But
he calls it an ancient weapon. So yeah, there's no way Kirk knew to put the safety on. That's such a
there's
good
no
point.
way.
The more
There's no way.
the more you bring it up, the more I'm like, you know what? No
Not
one's
only
concerned about gun safety.
I just had a moment where I was just like, "Oh God, we're gonna have a Cheddar Bob moment with William Shatner."
I mean, yeah, wait, are they gonna can you cheddar bob yourself with a phaser? Like,
I'm sure you
ow.
can.
Ooh. Close
Hopefully,
shave.
it's set to stun.
Yeah. I set my phaser from kill to razor.
Ooh. Well, apparently you can use a phaser to heat up coffee. So,
Oh really? Is that an
well,
in-universe thing?
yeah, that I think it was. I think it was in the last episode actually. Well, not. Well, yeah. Hang on. What was the last? No, not the last episode. It was in the Corbomite maneuver when they're in a very, very tense situation, and Janice comes with coffee, and she's just like, "I brought coffee," and he's like, "I thought the ship's power stuff." She's like, "I used a hand phaser."
Oh my god, you're totally right. I completely forgot about that. That's funny.
Just casually mentioned, like, "Yes, I used a very powerful weapon of death to heat up a hot beverage."
To waste time heating up coffee that you're not gonna drink.
Oh,
I'll
he drank
drink
it.
it.
I was
Only
gonna say
because
he
you were nice
drank
enough
it.
to bring it. Drank that coffee.
He drank it hard. Major Janeway vibes. But getting back to our story, then Yeoman Barrows reports that she is attacked by Don Juan, who tore her uniform. This is one of the things that seems to come out of literal nowhere, which says a lot in an episode where everything is coming out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Like, why specifically Don Juan?
I will say it definitely made me question Don Juan because I was like, I know nothing of Don Juan beyond the fact that he's like in my brain, like culturally short for someone who's sexy, but like her distressed attitude towards him does not suggest that he is sexy.
No, this is very much a pre-Me Too, Me Too moment.
Yeah, where her clothes are all torn and she looks upset. Like my brain sees that in 2024 body language, and she's like, that woman has been assaulted. Like, not like she's being seduced. I don't know. That feels like just a synonym, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it gives really odd vibes, and presumably this is to elicit her putting on the dress that comes up later, but it's really not necessary because, I
You just
mean,
put on the
you
dress.
can put on the dress if you want to.
Um,
Yeah, this doesn't really make much
Also,
sense.
it doesn't. So I just wanted to bring up the cinematography in the bit when they run over to Sulu. Really like it. It's still really good. It's really impressive considering it's the 1960s. It's a nice like clean shot. I like how it like shakes it to give it energy. And everyone's like physic. The thing about the show I've discovered is everyone's physical effort is like, and like you fully believe that they are sprinting.
Oh, because they are.
Yeah, they're full
Yeah.
bore sprinting, and it looks impressive. It makes the show look more dynamic. Like
Well,
my
and you
assertion that stuff that happens in space is boring. It's like, it's not. It's not boring. Sorry.
no.
Go on.
And you also like just more shout out because again, that kind of shot was a lot harder to do in 1966 than it is today.
1966 on television.
Yeah, very, very difficult to do. And so kudos to them. It was funny though, because when I was watching this, I was immediately my first thought was like, oh, Tanya Barrows was definitely supposed to be Janice Rand. Turns
I
out,
I see. I didn't necessarily. I could see why you would say that based on how I could believe. Well, I could believe it, but also like um yeah, it's a bones heavy episode in terms of love.
well, but fun. So, in fact, the original script did feature Yeoman Rand as part of the landing party, but as the character was written out of the series for things that we've talked about previously, see previous episodes for the story of why Grace Lee Whitney was written off the show. She was changed to Yeoman Tanya Barrows. Also, in Theodore Sturgeon's original script, the Yeoman had a share of close scenes with Kirk, but in the rewrites after the recasting, Gene Elkoon and Gene Roddenberry changed these to feature Dr. McCoy instead and introduced Kirk's old Academy flame, Ruth, to the story, which she will come later.
Wait, all the princess stuff that would happen with Yeoman Ren, and instead of it being Bones, it would have been Kirk being like, "Put on the princess dress." That would have been Kirk. Was that
Presumably,
the
although
idea,
that
or would
may
that?
have been I don't know. It doesn't specify.
Oh, I was just gonna.
Presumably, but I
Sorry,
don't know.
sorry. I was just gonna say, would that dynamic have played differently? Sorry.
Yeah, honestly, it would have. Another interesting thing is the other landing party we see with the man and the woman. That girl is the same girl who was getting married in the previous episode, Balance of Terror, whose fiance dies. So in the immediate next episode, she's hanging out with another guy. But
I didn't realize that, but yeah, that's
yeah,
ooh, she got over that kind of quick.
well, in her defense, if you are following star dates, Balance of Terror takes place the previous year in 2266 and under star date 1709.2 to 1709.6. So presumably some time has passed.
Socially acceptable amount of time has passed.
I mean, presumably. And interestingly enough, earlier in the episode, Kirk addresses her as Teller, because in the original script name, the character's name was Mary Teller, but it was later changed to Angela Martine on the set when somebody noticed that that actress had already appeared as a named character in the previous episode. And in the credits of this episode, she's identified as Angela
I
Martine. So
I do appreciate that continuity. It does make it feel like, oh, this is a crew that's made of more than just the people on the bridge.
yeah,
Like,
because we see it with Riley as well, because Riley's in
yeah,
2 episodes.
yeah, exactly. I like and it also allows them to do more like dramatically. Because her obviously interactions with this character are different. And yeah, now knowing that she has another relationship, it does like character was kind of not different, but it meant more this time. I was like, oh, okay, I'm actually invested in this a little more now.
Yeah. Well, as we learned from the episode Mud's Women, It's lonely in outer space,
You're lonely in outer space.
and radioactive perfume is a thing.
Your perfume is a thing.
Back to our intrepid crew. Kirk is briefly accosted by Finnegan, a cocky practical joker who tortured Kirk during his academy days, and later meets Ruth, the former aforementioned girlfriend. Kirk has horrible ADD in this episode.
I mean, yeah. Oh, he just really wants to beat up Finnegan.
Well, no, this
He really,
planet
he
would
just,
be. Just realize this planet would be extremely dangerous for somebody with like really bad clinical ADHD.
I mean, we'll get into it, but it's never really established exactly the mechanics of how this exactly works. Like how long before the thing appears, like what exactly appears, because they obviously their minds aren't blank the whole time. So it just seems to be kind of selective about what appears. So like, who's to say?
Yeah, and then the other note I had is who the fuck is Ruth? This
Well, my note on Ruth is just that Kirk has a type. He clearly likes his women blonde. Like him blonde, he likes him chesty.
that he does. That he does.
I'm
Nothing
not
wrong
I'm
with
not
that.
shaming him for it. Not shaming him for it. I'm just pointing it out.
I'm just over here thinking with all these like girlfriends slash affairs that Kirk has, like when did he have time to be a nerd?
Right? I mean, how is he spending time at the library when he was with all these ladies? Also, I realized this time I hated her outfit.
Oh God, it's so bad.
It's so
So
bad. It's like this weird binary thing that neither both patterns are so solid. It just it looks bad.
it
Like
gives
it's like yeah,
bad toga vibes.
right? I'm like, man, what is the deal with the academy? Like, what are you trying to punish them with bad fashion? Yeah, Finnegan, man. Maybe it's just often we talk about my 2024 sensibilities on this show, and I just feel like walking up to somebody and just striking them clean in the jaw isn't a prank. I don't know if you differ in opinion on that. That just kind of seems like an assault to me. Like it
Yeah,
just doesn't
well,
square with the version of Finnegan that Kirk was describing, where he was like buckets of water over your head and like putting your hand in water to make you pee yourself. Pranks. I'm like that doesn't square with just clocking in the jaw. It's not the
we'll
same.
see.
That's not a prank.
Well, see, what you're not realizing is that after that prank, Finnegan would come from behind the door and just clock him right in the jaw.
Just clock it right. He's just thought he'd be standing there all wet, like what the Finnegan, and just out of nowhere, like bam, with the right cross.
He's just like, "You've been finned again."
Finnegan. I mean, we're gonna get into Finnegan. I love Finnegan.
Oh, Finnegan is
I love Finnegan even more the second time.
But while this is going on, Sulu is attacked by a katana wielding samurai. I had trouble with this because I'm like, is this racist? Because it
I same. I was like, of course the Japanese guy gets chased by the samurai.
well, but it is established in universe that Sulu and George Takei are both of Japanese descent. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's presumable. It's presumable that maybe he thought about it on his mind, but given his previous experience with sword play and fencing, Sulu's first inclination may have been, and I think this would have played better in the episode, honestly, is if Robin Hood had appeared and challenged him to a
I
duel
I
instead.
think that maybe would have been more interesting, but also at the same time, with the sword stuff, he turned down the idea of the katana, and they were cool with that. So if I feel like if he was disinterested in the samurai, he would have been like, "Nah, I do Robin Hood instead." So perhaps it was his idea.
Well, and then I know that we had kind of previously touched on before off camera. It's like, well, maybe because a lot of these productions share studio lots and whatnot, or they're close by. Maybe somebody was already done up as a samurai, and they're like, hey, can we borrow him for like,
10 minutes.
yeah, to just chase around Sulu with a katana?
I I will say the costume looked good. Like
It did. It
looks
looked
like a
really
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
I
did
was
not look
impressed.
cheap. That's what I'm saying is maybe there was a film production like on the sim lot or something, or I
I
don't
could
know.
believe it.
I don't know of any I don't know of any productions that would have been featuring television productions that would have been featuring samurai at the time, but hey, you never know. Who
I
knows?
don't know, but it's a pretty accurate. I mean, again, everything I always say with that impresses me is like with the asterisk of for television, like in the 1960s, I'm like for a television show in the 1960s is an impressive looking samurai costume. I
It
will
is.
not take it away from the show.
As Sulu is running away from the samurai, he runs into Captain Kirk, who immediately reports that he's being chased by a samurai and that his phaser doesn't work. Kirk tries his phaser and finds that it is also not working. Kirk then orders a halt on the shore leave, which I have a problem with the synopsis here because it says he orders a halt on the shore leave, but Kirk never authorized shore leave to begin with. He specifically tells Uhura to tell everyone to stand by before they beam down.
Well,
So
they were about ready to beam down on the results of the landing party's examination.
yeah.
So
So
yeah, they were
there is
prepped to, but they
actually
were not authorized.
yeah.
You're right.
So synopsis, bad synopsis.
Bad.
But Spock reports that the planet is emanating a force field that is drawing energy from the ship's engines and disrupting communications. The energy pattern suggests that there is industrial activity.
One of the things I appreciated about this episode was Kirk's pragmatic attitude towards the situation. I appreciate how he just trusted Bones' judgment in that he's like he knows that Bones is reasonably sane, like well intelligent person, so he just believes him. And when Sulu comes up and he's like, "Oh, there's a samurai," he's like, "That sounds crazy." The samurai is like, "No, it's not that crazy. We've seen crazier stuff." Like I just appreciate his like pragmatic approach to, and it's the thing I appreciate about Kirk overall is how he just doesn't panic. He's always pragmatic.
And you too can be pragmatic by checking out this sponsor.
As far back as I can remember, I have wanted to be an entrepreneur. Now, I am here to guide you through the intricate paths of building your business, embracing emerging technologies and navigating the startup world. I am Saul Tarazona, and this is Startup Corps, your go-to podcast for entrepreneurial insights and tech-driven success.
So when we last left our heroes, let's see. Bones had seen a white rabbit and Alice. Kirk had seen simultaneously angry and happy Irishmen,
Very typically angry Irishman.
who really likes decking people in the face, and an old girlfriend. And Sulu's being chased by a samurai.
And he found a fun gun.
Well, yeah, that was
Bang bang boomstick.
Yeah, I bet you he wished that Kirk hadn't taken that gun.
Probably.
And Spock has discovered an energy field. So that is your synopsis thus far. Look at me acting like this is still old television and you can't just start from the very beginning. That's cute.
Time codes. If we can include time codes, cannot be bothered to include time codes.
But anyway, so Spock beams down to gather sensor readings as communication between the ship and the planet degrade, stranding Spock with Kirk and the survey parties on the planet with no means of communicating with the ship. After McCoy asks Yeoman Barrows to change into a medieval dress that mysteriously appears from nowhere, this is a weird
This
bit.
scene made me uncomfortable, Jake.
Yeah,
it
made me uncomfortable too.
Because I realized in the second timeline that they're co-workers and it feels inappropriate.
He's her doctor.
He's her doctor. He also almost feels old enough to be her dad. Just the whole thing felt it just reeked of an HR nightmare. Especially when he's like,
clearly
on
the
the dress.
Starship Enterprise does not have a human resources department.
I mean, clearly. I just like when he's like, put on the dress. I'm like, ooh, I don't like this.
But
I don't
see,
like this from any of the characters. I don't like this from you,
But here's the
McCoy.
thing, though. She wanted to put it on, and then when she says no peeking, I think she wanted him to.
Don't peek.
It did. It felt like she did.
It kind of felt like she did. Maybe I'm reading too much, and maybe I'm like Bones, and I read too much into it. Although
Also-
I simultaneously chuckled and cringed at the line, "Madam, when I peek, it's in the line of duty." Or he says, "Madam, I'm a doctor. When I peek, it's in the line of duty." And I'm like, that's simultaneously chuckling and disturbing.
I've heard that line in a different kind of movie before. Not that kind of show.
It's not that kind of movie. It's not that kind of show.
Okay. Not the kind of show.
But yes, and I can't get over the fact that with everything that's happened up to this point, a dress randomly appears and she's just like, "Oh, I should put it on." No,
The hat's a bit much though.
the hat was way too much.
The hat's a bit much.
It
I didn't
looked
mind the dress
ridiculous.
otherwise. Hat's a bit much.
The hat was a bit much. I love how we'll get there in a moment. Something happens to McCoy, and she's obviously concerned, and she's kneeling down with Kirk, and Kirk, I feel like Shatner's face wants to say, "Why are you wearing that?" But it doesn't fit with the scene.
I mean, his attitude is towards hysterical women, compartmentalized like milk. We'll get there.
But she's wearing a ridiculous hat. It doesn't fit the tone of the scene.
It just would be very funny if Kirk just turned to her and went, "Can we lose the hat?"
I feel like that's a Family Guy cutaway. It's like, yeah, but can we lose the hat? It's kind of
Can we lose the
distracting.
hat?
It's a little weird.
I mean, her uniform was torn, and maybe she was holding it up. Maybe it was falling off.
I mean, fair enough, but the hat, man.
The hat was a step too far.
Because she put on a medieval dress and it made her think of a knight on horseback charges at them. McCoy stands his ground, believing that all of these things are hallucinations and therefore cannot actually hurt them, which has been demonstrably untrue up to this point.
I mean, it really has been. I still have the moment where the thing's charging at him, and he's like, hallucinations can't hurt me, and then he gets, I've been stabbed. Hallucinations can very much hurt me. Oh God, ow!
Oh, because yes, Dr. McCoy is impaled by a lance and killed, presumably.
He just kind of stands in the way and lets it happen.
Kirk then pulls an Indiana Jones and shoots the knight with the revolver, Chekhov's revolver from earlier. Yeah, Kirk and Spock analyze the knight's body and to find it is composed of the same material as the planet's vegetation. Elsewhere on the planet, a World War II fighter plane strafes other members of the landing party. The knight was creepy, dude.
The knight, I will say, I did pause it this time, and I think it's a dummy when it's on the ground. I'm pretty sure it's a dummy. And it's a good dummy.
The effect when I can't remember if it's Kirk or Spock when they go in and pinch the cheek, like that's a really solid effect because a wax dummy would be more rigid,
right? I'm pretty sure it's it looks like latex.
It does,
like the way it moves. Yeah, like it's an impressive looking dummy. Or I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is like it's latex prosthetics on top of a person. It's highly possible.
It's ironic to say that it looked good because it looked ridiculous, but that's what they were going for.
That's what they were going for. Yeah. Kirk when he shoots the knight, Kirk solves the problem. Bam.
Yeah, very, very Indiana Jones vibe. But
it is very Indiana Jones coded.
So fun bit about the plane though, and I felt really good about this because I noticed it, and then of course I looked it up, and it turns out I noticed good. So the first shot of the plane, it appears to have U.S. Air Force stars on its wings. Therefore making it an American aircraft. However, when they cut to a close-up of the plane, it's clearly not only a different color, but it's also clearly a Japanese plane, complete with Japanese writing and the rising sun symbol on the side of it. So I'm just over here like, and it turns out they actually just used recycled footage for the plane.
Well, so it's funny. Remember, in the other timeline we discussed who thought of the plane. That was a question we asked. Who thought of the plane?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, I think now that I'm thinking about it, you said Japanese plane, and we were like Sulu pilot. It's gotta be Sulu. I know we came to the conclusion that it was Sulu, but now I'm convinced more than ever Sulu. Sulu thought of the plane.
Sulu, stop it.
Stop thinking about your hobby, Sulu.
Quit thinking.
Stop thinking about your ornate love of Japanese samurais in the middle of a high stress scenario.
It's inappropriate, man. It's
inappropriate.
During all this commotion, the bodies of Dr. McCoy and the knight vanish. Spock asks Kirk what was on his mind before his vision of Finnegan. Kirk says that he was thinking of his academy days. As Spock expects, Finnegan reappears. He proceeds to taunt Kirk before running off and Kirk chasing him. So before we get into the delight that is Finnegan, I have to point out that just because Finnegan he jumped over the rock, if I recall.
He jumped over the rock. Yeah. I actually this is the thing I paid attention to specifically this time because you mentioned it last time. Like I have to pay attention to this friggin' rock.
Yeah. So Kirk proceeds to run over the rock.
He jumps over it. He jumps over it. Yeah.
It would have been significantly easier and faster to run around the rock.
Yeah. No,
I feel like in my head he only did it because Finnegan did it, and he wasn't going to let Finnegan best him.
But no, Finnegan vaults over the rock in a move that's significantly more impressive, and really Kirk just hops over the rock in a move that's not even remotely impressive. It's really quite. You're right. Like it would have been way faster for him to run around the rock.
Well, especially since doesn't Finnegan like bank right anyway, so it just really doesn't make sense for Kirk to follow the
absolutely.
Same path.
It absolutely does not.
This is another one of those Star Trek moments where it's just like. It's taken them far too long to figure this out.
I mean, yes, it is.
It's just taken them way too long to figure this out.
I mean, hey, maybe Spock had gone down with the initial landing party. It would have taken him so long.
He probably would have. Yeah, that's fair. Because Spock seems to figure it out pretty quick, considering how long he's been down there. But for me, the moment Finnegan appeared right after Kirk was reminiscing about it, I'm like, oh, okay, it manifests things that you're thinking about.
I thought there was a brief moment where I thought it was going to turn out that Finnegan was like a psychic bad guy, and he was the villain the whole time. But Yeah, it was very apparent that what they were thinking about was appearing pretty early on.
So, but hold on, we gotta touch on the fight scene
We gotta
'cause
talk about the fight scene for that. Number one goes on for entirely too
it's
long.
far too long. But that being said, it's not bad. It's just too long.
It's too long. I mean, it's everything I love about Star Trek in a nutshell. Like this, I think this might be my favorite episode, but like if you were to be like, Justin, what is it you love about Star Trek? I'd be like, it's Captain Kirk fighting an Irishman for way too long. Is that Irishman hitting him over the side with a stick, which is easily where did he get the stick? It didn't really seem to hurt Kirk all that much. Why did he hit him with it? It doesn't even look all that cool, but it's amazing. It's pocket sand.
Pocket sand. Yeah.
It's just the whole thing. And also, yeah, it the thing about stuff from that era, and when you did my podcast for the podcast, we talked about it with old Batman, where it's like from that era, it's just certain stunts where you can't fake that. So like when where William Shatner gets like hip tossed, like it looks believable because it probably was real. And we've talked about that on this show before as well.
Been. Well, and
Yeah.
there's a certain sense of, I guess, practicality is the word that I still kind of use today, because I'm a big fan, and I understand there are unions and safety and all that, but I'm a big proponent of like, we're here, the ground's not that hard, just throw me and get
Right?
it done. Like, don't bother with all the crash pads and have to shoot coverage so you can't see it. Just throw me. I'll be fine.
But what interesting, I found that a lot of people, this is going to sound really weird, but are predisposed instinctually to not want to hurt people.
Hmm.
Like, so for the movie I made that I don't know if anyone's ever going to see it, but one of the gags we did in it is there was the maid, an older woman, had to slap me in the ass. And I kept saying harder, like like just go for it, because it just wasn't conveying on camera because she kept holding back, and every time I told her to do something that would like hurt me, I could feel her holding back, and so yeah, I can see that when you have to do it, you have to actually do it, otherwise it looks inauthentic on camera.
Yeah, and ironically, I had a similar thing. We did an internet show a while back, and the stunt was I was supposed to get slapped. And the thing
Yeah,
is, I said, you don't have to kill me, but I mean, just slap me. Like,
yeah, just go for it.
because the thing is, if you half-ass it, then you have to do it 40 times. I would rather just get slapped kind of hard once instead of have
Yeah,
to keep doing it. And so finally, I said, just slap me, and then we'll be done, and then we don't have to do this
yeah.
anymore.
I feel like
And
you're not gonna hurt me. Like there's so many takes where I could feel her. It's the weird. It's so. I mean, guess you would know it, but it's so hard to describe it. Where it's like I can feel her like subconscious desire not to want to hurt me, and I'm like, it's making it look worse. Just do it. Like
yeah,
just
just
go
do it.
for it. Just go for it. It's
Just
fine. I
do it.
can deal with the temporary discomfort. Which is, yeah, I appreciate that in stuff that it makes it look more real. So this looks like a real fight, and it makes it look more believable, and it makes it more enjoyable for me.
Well, that's why pro wrestlers make great action movie actors.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because they sometimes it looks like professional wrestling on camera, but sometimes I'm Hulk Hogan, but sometimes it looks good.
So then, after the delightful fight, actually, I think we might be a little out of order here. Yes, we see the tiger when it's Sulu and Kirk, correct?
No, first time we see the tiger is when it the chick who was formerly married or
Oh
getting
yeah,
married.
but when we see it again with the
Yeah, the first
obvious
time we
collar
see
and
it.
chain.
Yes, that's when it's with Kirk and Sulu. And it was interesting because I was like, the first time I watched it, that first appearance of the tiger, it does look like stock footage. I thought it was stock footage, like the plane. So that's why when you're like, oh, the plane is stock footage, it didn't surprise me. Um, it does surprise me later when the tiger comes back the second time. That's when I was like, oh no, shit, they got a real tiger.
Well, and the thing of it is, and I should have paid more attention because, believe it or not, fun fact about tigers is no two stripe patterns are the same, and that's how if you're at a place like, for example, I used to volunteer at a big cat rescue that takes in, like abused and neglected big cats because obviously you can't release them into the wild. They've been raised by humans and they are completely useless in terms of hunting actual prey.
Yeah,
But each of their stripe patterns is basically like a fingerprint. So that's how you would tell them apart, presumably. So I didn't look to see if it was the same tiger, but the second time we see it, it's chained and has this big metal collar on. And
Yeah,
that is
you can see it's got
because,
a big
yeah,
metal collar. Yeah.
most of this episode was shot between, I believe it's called Jagged Rock State Park out in California, and then also at something Safari Zoo. So that would be why and how they had a tiger on standby. And I feel like, well, I know why they had the tiger. I'll just go ahead and go that now. The original plan in the script was for William Shatner to wrestle a tiger, and thankfully, someone decided to be an adult and said, "No, we're not going to do that because that is the definition of stupid."
I can't believe the part of the story that I can't believe is that William Shatner wanted to do it. In my brain, I just picture William Shatner walking in and being like, "Fuck no!" Like it's the fact
Well,
that he wanted to do it is also unsurprising, but like at the same time, kind of surprising.
I suspect it's one of those things where he probably said, "Yeah, that would be cool," and then presumably he'd never been super close to a tiger before, and then he saw the thing close up and realized how big it was, and then was probably like, I can't wrestle a tiger. It will kill
Right.
me. Because the thing about
Yeah.
tigers is, I don't know, have you ever been close up to a tiger?
I mean, apart from we have them at our zoo, but that's about it.
Are they far away though, or do they get kind of close?
Like close enough that you get an idea that they're big cats.
Yeah,
Certainly.
yeah. So if you've never seen a tiger up close before, you don't click how big they are. And there was a tiger named Felix who at the place where I volunteered, you get pretty close to them, but they're in enclosures where they cannot, even if they want to, they could not get to you. And most of them are used, well, the ones that are on tour are so used to people that they're basically big house cats, but it's still just
Yeah.
unadvisable to be near them without separated by an enclosure. And you're not allowed to get right up to the enclosure anyway,
Yeah.
but you're close enough to get a sense of the scale. And dude, I looked this tiger dead in the eye, and it just had this look on its face that was like, if I wanted to.
Fuck around and you'll find out.
It was very much a like, I'm not saying it looked at me like prey, but I got the feel of that.
Like I think with tigers, it depends on like how they're raised. Like
Sure.
if they're bottle fed, they tend not to see you as prey. I think it's like, well, it's like you said the off air conversation. You said that they will usually just kill you and play. Like
Yeah,
like
that's the
the
most
best
common.
example, my neighborhood cat, he used to do this thing where if you played with him enough, he would eventually get on his back. Once he got on his back, his claws would come out and he'd bat you and he'd hit you with the claws. Imagine that, but it's the size of your face. Like,
With a 500-pound cat behind it.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. It
it
doesn't
will
mean
kill
to.
you. Well, so there's tons of stories of, like, I remember this one case where there was a zookeeper that was she lived, um but she was attacked, which I say attacked in quotes because the thing of it is, when you know the bite force of a tiger, this cat was playing with her, but then all the commotion scared the cat. And based on its behavior, it's my belief that the cat was actually the tiger was actually trying to protect her because the
Oh,
tiger doesn't know what's going on, but she had, you know, I think her skull was fractured because her head was in the tiger's mouth, and obviously she had lacerations. But here's the thing: if the tiger wanted her dead, she would be dead.
yeah. I mean, that's a lot of like. There's a certain alligator expert who pops up in my for you page. Who drives me crazy because he's kind of disingenuous and is being like, this animal will kill me at any moment at any time. It's like, well, not really, because you feed it and it's a smart animal. So like, no, it wouldn't just on a dime kill you and eat you. Like unless you
Alligators, no.
starved it.
Alligators, no. Crocodiles, maybe, because
A
for those of you who don't
crocodile.
know, crocodiles are significantly more aggressive for some reason. It must be just how their brains work. But yeah,
Yeah.
alligators, generally speaking, are quite passive animals as long as they're not hungry. If they're hungry,
Yeah.
they will hunt the shit out of you. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, generally speaking, if they're well fed, it's my understanding, which of course there's going to be some herpetologist that comes, "Well, actually," and it's like, look, I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
what I've always read and understood. And I mean, it's worth noting there's a lot of alligators in Florida, and you would think that if they were that aggressive, there'd be a lot more alligator fatalities.
Exactly. But in regards to the tiger in this episode, I do for me because I watch enough like internet tiger videos and lion videos. You can absolutely. I've hit that point where you can tell in a movie or television when it's a pet tiger or a tame tiger because it's just like this tiger's not aggressive. Like
No.
he's just chilling. He's just hanging out.
Tigers that are raised in captivity can actually be pretty chill. Like I said, they're basically just big house cats. They
Yeah,
have
yeah. There's
very,
one.
very, very many of the same mannerisms, and actually, it's very so. The rescue organization is the Exotic Feline Rescue Center. You should check them out, efrc.org. There, I'll put a link in the description for everybody. A lot of the cats on their tour, they have a lot of tigers, and they'll actually play with the keepers. Like they'll do the hide and seek game, and it's quite adorable. But you have to remember that this is a 400 to 600 pound animal. Obviously, they
Yeah.
don't get in the enclosures and play with them, but they'll play with them like out from outside. You know,
Was there keepers who like did get in with them?
no, not never with a
Oh,
cat. So even to feed them, there are different compartments in their enclosures, and when they would come in to clean, they actually have an isolation area that they use treats to get the cat into, then they lock that, and then they go in and do what they need to do. So yeah, there's never just for
so
safety reasons, there's never, which by the way, if you're ever going to a quote unquote sanctuary and keepers do get into the enclosure with the cats, massive red flag.
okay. I was literally gonna be my next question. Like wait, like when you see like YouTube videos or whatever, and or like TikTok videos or whatever, and it's a person and they're like physically interacting with an animal. That's bad.
That's real bad. That is I'm not going to say there are never reputable organizations that do it, but they are certainly in the minority. Most of these people, like there's this guy in Mexico, right, that I'm shocked he's not dead yet. I'm absolutely shocked he's not dead because of all the stupid stuff he does. Like gets into open enclosures with multiple big cats with no protection, no nothing. I'm shocked he's still alive.
Yeah, man. I would never do that. Big animals like horses freak me out because when I was
Well, you got to
younger,
be careful.
my cousin like his spleen got ruptured nearly because a horse kicked him. So just yeah, horses freak me out. They're too strong and too like easily spooked.
Generally speaking, I like
That out of
horses, but
control.
there's a healthy respect there for sure because
Yeah,
I also know this animal could kill me if it wanted to.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. It absolutely. Oh, certainly, it could like severely
It
damage
could
me. That's
really
for
mess
sure.
you up. But that's the thing, and that's what I always say is like there's animals out there that if it wanted to kill you, it would. So just remember that. Just have a
Yeah, yeah.
healthy just have a healthy respect. Even domesticated animals, like you said, horses. Horses are absolutely capable of killing a human being. It is not hard
Wants
for
to.
them. Well, perhaps we can spur our audience into checking out this sponsor.
So today's episode is sponsored by the Spur of the Moment podcast, everybody. Come join us every Saturday and we're going to do this. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk about the news. Time to talk about the Minecraft.
Okay.
It looks
So,
bad. So we're going to talk about movies. That new Joker movie is apparently terrible and I want to see it so badly because I hear it's awful. We're going to make some jokes. We're going to have some laughs.
There's a lot of funny jokes in there. There's a lot of weird jokes in there. The Channing Tatum one will always make me laugh, especially when you hear the behind the scenes stuff. Like when you hear the behind the scenes story of how they just phoned them up.
We're occasionally going to have other people along for the ride.
A really fun fact, though, is I learned last year that that Coraline was Leica and not Disney.
Oh, interesting. I mean, I can see why you would make that
Yeah.
mistake. Yeah. Because it does seem like it's a different. And to be fair,
That would be a horrifying, terrible Disney movie.
it would be because yeah. And we're just gonna have a generally good time. George, do you have anything else you want to say about our podcast? Make people watch it.
We watch movies. Sometimes we watch shows, but we always have fun.
Here
On the
man,
spur, on the
spur,
spur. 3, 2, 1. On the spur of the podcast moment.
Yeah, we nailed it. Nailed
Spur
it.
of the moment podcast.
Yeah. It's Spur of the Moment podcast every Saturday. We nailed it.
You can expect awesome content like that.
We cut flawless promos every single week.
So, Irishmen, Tigers, and Samurai, oh my, the episode is drawing to a close. It's just like you said during the ad break. Basically, the fight with Finnegan ends and then it just wraps up real fast.
Also, that's the name of the episode, by the way. Tigers and samurai. Oh my,
Tigers, Irishmen, and Samurai. Oh my.
that's got to be the name of the episode.
Amidst all the chaos and tomfoolery going on, an elderly man appears, identifying himself as the caretaker. He goes on to explain that the planet is an amusement park, so it's an amusement planet.
It's a whole lot of trust me, bro. Like this is legit,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, oh yeah, it's legit. It's legit. You're not like zapping our brains and like stealing our thoughts. Or no. It's perfectly legit. Trust me, bro. It's the theme park nobody's heard of in the middle of nowhere. Okay, when you say it out loud, it's sounding sketchy. No, it's totally fine. Just watch out for the rusty fence.
The caretaker goes on to explain that the constructs created by the planet are not intended to be harmful or permanent. Accompanying him is Dr. McCoy, revived by the planet, and showing off 2 Rigelian cabaret girls he thought of after being revived. So Bones is a baller.
Yo, I just get Bones, you dog.
Bones is real horny in this episode.
He's like, what? I'm on shore leave. Bones, what did you do?
That's what he says, actually. He's like, what? I'm on shore leave.
It's just, so am I. There's a moment where she wasn't wearing the Yeoman's outfit before she put on the dress. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, speaking of her outfit, at one point, I'm pretty sure that the tear changes sides. I'm not sure because I'm pretty sure that when it's torn, it's originally on the right, but then when she changes out of the dress back into her uniform, she's like patching it up on the left side.
See, I didn't notice that. It looked to me like her uniform was back intact, so I thought it was like she just used the planet's wish magic to get an intact uniform.
I mean, you would think, why didn't the planet give her a repaired uniform? That would have been easy enough to think of. She probably
Right.
could have been like, I wish my uniform wasn't broken. Oh, looky-loo. There it is.
Look at that. But then when she leaves, does the outfit just like dissolve then? How that works?
I think so. I think they just recycle it because it's made out of the plant material. Apparently, everything is.
Fair
So
enough.
why would you not be mining the crap out of that? Because apparently you can make
Right?
it into anything.
I mean, how is Bones alive? How did him getting stabbed work? Like, he got stabbed and he's like, I'm not stabbed anymore. Unstabbed, baby. There's no real explanation for that.
The caretaker apologizes for the misunderstandings and offers the planet's services to the Enterprise crew, cautioning that they must choose their amusements carefully. Kirk accepts the offer as Ruth reappears and authorizes the crew to beam down.
I love the moment of like, he's like, no, I'm going to go back to the ship and get some work done. Spock, you can stay here and chill. But on the other hand,
And maybe I'll stay for a few days. So it's like, Captain Kirk, sir, what did you do to that poor innocent plant woman?
Not about what he did. It's what he's about. It's about what he's about to do.
Kirk certainly implies because he's like, maybe I'll stay for a couple days.
A couple of days.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid.
Well, he just
there's a lot of sex jokes in this episode.
There's a lot of sex jokes, and well, and then even when they all come back, and everybody's just kind of, even the yeoman is kind of grinning like stupidly, and there's like,
they just had sex.
I just had sex.
Yeah, like
They
the
did.
dopey grin of 3 people who just had a bunch of sex.
Presumably the whole crew. It's like, how'd you get him to leave?
Right?
Maybe the
It'd
plant
just be
people.
funny if they all had wobbly legs as they walked back on the ship.
Well, no, I know how they did it. So after a couple of days, the plant people started asking, like, "Where's this going?"
Right? Kirk, we need to talk about our future. Kirk
So
was like,
what are
Kirk
we?
out.
It's
Yeah,
like,
so
I have a.
Chef,
Yeah.
shore leave over. Shore leave over. Everyone shore leave over. We are gone. Enterprise out. My thing is like, it's kind of a amusement park if they don't give them no warning. Oh, hey, by the way, don't think of any bad like just while
Yeah.
you're down here.
There
Think
should have
of
been a
only-
sign.
Right? Maybe don't think of tigers or because I feel like dying, even if it's temporary, has to be some level of traumatic.
Well, but at the same time, though, if you say don't think of tigers or dangerous, what's the first thing you think about?
Oh, you're not wrong. That's all I can think of now.
In case you really loved the episode Shore Leave, there's more. There is an episode in Star Trek the Animated Series entitled Once Upon a Planet, where the Enterprise crew returns to the amusement planet for another rest. However, the caretaker has since died, and the computer left to run the planet now resents its role as a servant and turns against the visitors, using the props and the personalities the visitors think up against them. So we will
It's
get there
funny.
eventually.
I'm actually excited for that because not that I think the animated series is gonna have a horror bend, but I'm like, you know what? This would kind of be fun in like a Black Mirror kind of episode, kind of like dystopian kind of way. I'm like as a horror concept, this kind of works. And
Well, it's a bit of a monkey's paw.
It is a bit of a monkey's paw, and I did enjoy the mystery of this episode. I didn't think the resolution was super clean. I thought it felt kind of rushed, where it was like, what's the resolution? It's just a guy. A guy comes out and is like, don't worry about it.
Oh, I just realized this planet is just Las Vegas.
Yes, it is, because whatever happens on Weird Dream Planet stays on Weird Dream Planet, including herpes.
Do you think Kirk pulled like a Bortus and got like 6 Spocks to just massage the out of him?
I mean, absolutely he did.
That episode to this day of the Orville still makes me uncomfortable when I watch it because but it's a really good episode. And I love the fact that there are consequences to that. And Bortus has to live with that. And I'm like, wow, this is really heavy. And I like it from a narrative perspective, but like, it's real heavy.
The thing I love about the Mocklins is what starts off as a joke of, oh, ha ha, it's a single sex species and they only go to the bathroom once a year. But that episode about going to the bathroom once a year is this really emotionally, like every episode where they appear is this really like nuanced take on like on separate societies and like traditional values and yeah, every episode with them is like ultra interesting and super like engaging in a way that you're like not expecting from what could potentially be a one joke character.
Oh, I want more Orville.
Coming season 4.
Any other thoughts on Shore Leave?
Again, I'm standing by it. This might be my favorite episode so far. Like,
it's a fun
one. Really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. It's everything I love about Star Trek. It's silly. There's a decent mystery. Just because I didn't love the payoff. I absolutely like every time a weird thing showed, like when the samurai showed up, I was like, what the like when a thing catches me off guard, or when Finnegan just showed up out of nowhere and Kirk started fighting. I love the fight sequence. Again, I love him hitting Kirk with a stick, pocket sand. It's really fun. It's well choreographed. The makeup, Kirk's makeup after he had gotten beat up was really solid. It looked like he had been in a fight.
I always praise those Kirk fights because afterward it looks like Kirk's been in a fight. And
right?
Yeah, it's really good. And like the torn clothes make sense because guess what? Clothes get torn in fights pretty often.
I mean, so much of that fight is him grabbing him by his shirt. It just makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It looks good. Yeah, just a very fun episode. Not super heavy. I enjoyed it. I had a pretty good time.
It was a good time.
This is why I love this show.
It's a lot of fun, and you should all join us on our voyage and watch it with us. Because the goal of this is for you guys to watch the episode, the viewers to watch the episode, and then watch our, it's sort of like an additional commentary, but with a little bit more humor. But anyway, this has been The Final Frontier. Vacation is now over. Join us next week when we go over the episode, The Galileo 7. Justin, would you like to take a stab at what we will be seeing in that episode?
So my guess is it's a group of 7 guys, and I think they're part of like some sort of league, it's like Mensa, but for smart people in the future for like physics, and they're not all named Galileo, but Galileo 7 is like the group, and they've come upon like a major universe-altering discovery.
No.
Dang it! 1 week I'm gonna nail. Hey, the 1 week I did nail it, I said time travel, and it turned out to be time travel.
And I completely
the 1 week I was right. So one of these weeks I'm gonna guess.
Absolutely.
I'm not just doing it for the bit.
Yes, well, join us next week on The Final Frontier. But until then, watch long and prosper.
And subscribe.
And like.
Do all the things. Share it with your friends.
Share it with your crew.
Trek. You want to know a fun fact, a fun not PG rated fact that I learned today that I legitimately didn't know?
What's that?
You know that Hitler only had 1 ball?
Really?
Yeah. There's a joke in Jojo Rabbit. Oh my god, this is the weirdest side, but there's a joke in Jojo Rabbit where Stephen Merchant shows up as part of the Gestapo. And he's like, you may have heard a rumor that Hitler only has 1 ball. That's absolutely not true. And then he goes into this huge thing. And of course, you know me, that made me Google it. And sure enough, it'd be past that. That's a true fact. He passed a physical. He has some sort of illness where he only has 1 testicle.
Oh, so he
for whatever reason that.
So he only had.
Oh my god, are you Googling this?
Yeah. he had
That's so
one
funny.
he had one undescended testicle. So it was there. It was just
It was just up. It was just up there. I just thought that was funny that there was an element of truth to that.